Good morning. The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 9:20. The committee members today are Ms. Pearl Wise, Mr. Pete Freeman. My name is Tony Marabella. I'll be chairing. Our remote location is at Tangipahoa Parish with the staff members. Are there any staff members there with you?
Yes, sir.
Are they inside or?
Yeah,
Would the staff please introduce themselves?
Deputy James Brossett. Last name spelling Brossett.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Mr. Collier,
Yes, sir.
give me your full name and DOC number.
Ernest Collier, 400-180.
Mr. Collier, this is a revocation hearing. Let me explain our procedure to you. We're going to cover your parole revocation questionnaire. Do you have that with you?
No, I don't have it with me, sir.
Okay. We'll be able to put it up on the board and we'll go over it in just a moment. Then I'm going to read the allegations against you, how you violated your parole. I'll ask you to plead either guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement, or not guilty with a statement. Then we'll have a full discussion about the allegations. Do you understand our procedure?
Yes, yes, sir.
Can we put his
I think so. I think it's still on.
Mr. Collier, can you see that?
Yes,
Do you recognize that document? Is that your signature at the bottom of the page?
yes, yes, sir.
And that was signed on November the 30th of 2022.
Yes, sir.
Are all of those answers still accurate and correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about number one. You indicated that you have been treated for mental illness in the past 5 years, or you are currently taking medication for a mental disorder. Which is it, or both? Have you been treated for a mental illness in the last 5 years?
Yes.
Do you know what that mental illness is?
It was depression, anxiety, hallucinations, auditory hallucinations, not being able to sleep.
Okay. Did you get a diagnosis?
Yes.
What did they diagnose you with?
What I just named the
Depression and okay. Are you currently taking medication?
no,
Do you have a lawyer, sir?
no, I choose to be here myself, represent myself. No, sir.
You feel confident to represent yourself? You want to move forward today with this hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does your depression or any of the illnesses that you've been treated for, your ability to think or reason or
No.
understand what you're doing?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to read the allegations against you. Number two, you failed to report to your parole officer since June of 2022. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
Right. You moved without permission of your parole officer on or about September 21 of 2022. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
You failed to refrain from association with persons involved in the illegal possession, sale, and distribution of marijuana, as evidenced by your own admission to the use of marijuana on November the 30th of 2022. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
And you failed to provide your parole officer with verification of your employment. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
You absconded from the supervision of your parole officer in September of 22 Your whereabouts remained unknown until your arrest by the Hammond City Police Department on November the 28th of 2022. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
And you failed to pay supervision fees since 2015, resulting in arrearages and a balance of $7,365. How do you plead to that?
Plead guilty.
Case has been assigned to me, Mr. Collier, so I'll begin our questions. You indicated that you deny that you failed to report to your parole officer since June of 2022. Did you report to your parole officer in July of 2022?
My parole officer had changed without my knowledge. My parole officer was James Swallow. I think that's his name, but without me knowing, my parole officer changed the Mike to Michael. Can't think of his last name at this point. But me and my previous parole officer, we always talk on chat on live. You know, he was doing it because of COVID. We always talked over the phone. When I didn't know who to get in touch with at the time. I did not know that Mike was my parole officer that I had to get in touch with.
Did you call anybody to try to find out?
Usually, James would call me.
It's your obligation and responsibility to get in touch with him.
Yes, sir.
After June of 2022, when he didn't call you back, did you try to figure out who your probation officer, your parole officer was, how to get in contact with him? What efforts did you make to do that?
I didn't make any effort because I didn't know. I didn't make any effort though, and I take responsibility for that.
So you failed to report to your parole officer after June of 2022.
Okay.
All right. You moved without permission of your parole officer on or before September the 21st of 2022. Where did you live before September the 21st of 2022?
Well, we were still, after Hurricane Ida, a tree had fell in our house, so we was waiting on FEMA. We was living in a motel.
And did you contact your parole officer?
And I had, at the time,
tell the parole officer where you were living?
Yeah, I contacted James Swallow and I told him where I was at. However, you know, things hadn't changed and we had to move. And during that time, I didn't get a chance to report. And James was no longer my parole officer, me not knowing. I still didn't get a chance to report until November.
So you did not report your move?
Yes.
You failed to refrain from association with persons involved in the illegal possession of marijuana. Did you admit that you used marijuana on November the 30th?
I admitted to using CBD. I told them that I buy it from it illegal without the THC, and they never drug tested me. He asked me, you know, did I smoke? I said I smoked the CBD that they sell in the stores legally in Louisiana. That kind of hemp marijuana. He never drug tested me, so you know he left it like that.
That you smoked marijuana on November the 30th of 2022.
Not the marijuana with the THC, the legalized version with that don't have the THC in.
Now, how often were you smoking that?
I only smoked that for my anxiety and depression. It was mostly for medical use. It didn't have THC.
You had a prescription for medical marijuana?
No, I just thought it was okay because they sold it in the stores.
What's your past drug history?
I smoked marijuana in the past years ago.
Would you go to jail?
I never did no other drugs though. I never did no other drugs in my past.
You absconded supervision in September of 22 and were arrested by the Hammond police on November the 28th. Your whereabouts were unknown. Why'd you get arrested?
I got stopped for traffic. My tag was expired on the back of my truck. And the police stopped me and was notifying me that my tag, and then he found out that I had this parole hold.
Okay, where were you going in your truck?
Well, I was coming from getting it fixed. I was on my way back home from getting it fixed because my tail lights was not working properly, and I had a leak in my motor, my oil leak in my motor.
Were
I
you
had got it
working
fixed. Sir?
Were you working anywhere?
Well, I was working, but I ended up, being relieved because of my situation, my mental situation.
What is your mental situation?
I hear things. I was kind of depressed. I was just, I had a newborn baby, and I was going through some changes. And we were still in the motel at the time, and it was a lot of stress on me trying to, to get away from being treated mentally to try to help get in a stable environment.
What kind of job did you have?
Well, I like cooking, so I was cooking.
Where at?
I was a prep cook at Santa Fe.
Santa Fe restaurant?
Yes, sir. But I didn't last about 6-7 weeks.
So you were there for 6 or 7 weeks.
Yes.
Why didn't you notify your parole officer where you were working?
At that time,
that was your responsibility?
I knew it was my responsibility, sir, but at the time I had so much on my plate. I was really going through some changes. I was trying to get stable. I was really trying to get stable enough to when I notified him that I felt confident about my situation, but I never made it to that level.
Mr. Collier, when you're on parole, you don't get to choose the rules. The rules are very clear. It's your responsibility and your obligation. You don't get to decide, oh, well, when I feel better, I'm going to call somebody. You've got an obligation to report. You pled not guilty to all of these things, and after I talk to you, you're guilty of every one of them.
Well, I pled not guilty. I wanted to say with a statement. I forgot that you said that I could plead not guilty with a statement.
And you pled guilty to not having not paying the money.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When you first got arrested, you went before your parole officer and he suggested you go into work release for 6 months. And you said, nah, I'm not interested in that. Why?
Because, sir, I was working on the streets and.
Well, you just told me you didn't have a job. You just told me because of your mental condition, you got laid off from Santa Fe. You wasn't working. You were waiting to get a job to notify your parole officer. Now, so what's the real?
I had got laid off like a week before I got arrested. I was working all the way up, but in that same week I got arrested. Everything happened just quick.
You got laid off because you got arrested.
No, I was laid off like a week or something before I got arrested. I didn't tell him that basically being smart with him. I was just wanting to be in a more independent state because for so long being on that medicine, I didn't feel independent. I kept feeling trapped, and I tried to explain that to him. I say, it's not what you think it is.
When was the last time you went to a mental health counselor?
Well, it was, I'm gonna say a good 7 months ago, when I had probably longer than that, when we went to going through what we was going through, having to go to the motel. I had to start working. They was trying to help me.
Did they prescribe any kind of medication?
They prescribed some, I call them lilies. I forgot the name of it, but I call them some lilies. They helped me with the hallucinations and the sleep disorder.
You indicated on your document you don't take any medication. Why didn't you continue to take that medication?
Because I couldn't. I started work and I started trying to work to help my family get out of the motel. Because FEMA was taking so long.
Why did you quit taking the medication?
Because I couldn't work on them. It made me sleep. It made me, kind of feel lazy.
Did you go back to the doctor and suggest that to him and try to get some different medication?
I did a couple times and they like decreased it from 25 milligrams to 15 milligrams to 10 milligrams. That was their form of trying to alter the medication.
Okay. Any questions?
I did have a question. Now answer that again about why you refused the TWP that the probation officer offered. You really didn't answer that.
I refused it because I have a baby at home, and I told him that it wasn't that I didn't want to take what he was saying. It was that I wanted to be more independent. I wanted to be with my child because I have 2 other kids that's grown that I missed, them growing up due to the reason why I'm on parole right now, because I've done time. I've done 16 years in prison. And that was like, I got home in 2012. My children were 19 years old when they was 2 and 3 years old when I first went to prison. But now I don't want to experience that with the child that I have now. I wanted to be there.
Okay, I get it now. Did you state to your parole officer that you felt like if you come before the parole board, you would get a more lenient outcome?
I never said anything like that, ma'am. We never had a discussion to where it would lead me to say anything of that magnitude.
What was your expectation when you refused the transitional work and you come before the parole board? What would you like, or how would you like for me to vote for you?
I felt like the parole board would be by being 3 different people because I'm dealing with 1 parole officer. I feel like the parole board would be more reasonable in looking at the situation even deeper. Because
what do you hope would happen today?
Ma'am, to tell you the truth,
Please tell me the truth.
I didn't really know what was going to happen. All I wanted someone to hear me out. I couldn't tell you or dictate what the board would do.
I wasn't asking you to dictate. I just wanted to know your hope. That's all. So tell me this. If you are released today, where would you go live and how would you support yourself?
Well, I'm going to work. I'm going back to, I like to cook. So I want to go, that's my trade. That's what I want to do.
Now answer the question. Dancing around. Like if you got released from jail and you walked out, where would you be going to stay?
Oh, I'm going home. I have
Where's that? Where's home?
44057 Hood Road, Hammond, Louisiana. My mom.
Your mom's house. Oh, she got a house now.
My mom is dead, but she left me that house. It's paid for. So
you weren't staying in it before. You were staying in a hotel. So what's the difference?
My sister was staying there before. My sister's no longer there.
Okay. And how would you pay the light?
Just only me and my sister.
Okay, how would you pay the light bills there?
Get a job.
You don't have a job. You have to get a job.
Well, I have kin people that work.
That's a yes or no question. Do you have a job when you walk out of jail if you got out today?
Yes, I have a job, ma'am.
Where is this employment?
It would be at Dunn Seafood.
Okay. That's all I had, Chair.
Mr. Collier, you've been before the parole board before, since you've been on parole.
Years ago, yes, sir.
And you were sent in lieu of revocation to the transitional workforce. You got kicked out.
No,
No, what?
I completed it.
Honesty is your best policy. Well, tell me you didn't get kicked out. I'm looking at the records.
Sir, could I speak? Could I?
Go ahead, dig your hole.
I got the records, if you look at the records clearly, I went to Hunt's on a aggravated work offense. The aggravated work offense wasn't how do you put it? Well, I wasn't convicted. I was found not guilty of it, and I was sent to LaFouche Parish Work Release Center, and I completed it in LaFouche Parish Work Release Center.
What was the allegation of the aggravated work offense?
I don't quite remember. It wasn't nothing, I guess, some about me not like that, but it wasn't something that was true. And I was found not guilty on it when I went to Hunts.
Anything else you'd like to say before the board votes?
No, sir.
Mr. Collier, it was recommended that you do work release. You didn't want to do that. It's also been recommended that you complete the Steve Hall program in lieu of revocation. And based upon everything that I've heard and I've seen today, I find that you are guilty of failing to report to your parole officer, that you're guilty of moving without permission, without telling your probation officer. You failed to provide your probation officer with verification of your employment, and you absconded from supervision of your parole officer until you were arrested by the Hammond police. My vote today in lieu of revocation is to follow the recommendation, and that is that you enroll in and complete the Steve Hoyle program. That's my vote. I'm only one. So, Ms. Wise?
Mr. Collier, you didn't have to be here. You had an option and you didn't have to be here. For me, I find you guilty of all the allegations. My vote is to revoke your supervision and impose the original sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Collier, would you go to that substance abuse and try to finish it? That's what my order is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I'm gonna go along with Mr. Marabella and in lieu of revocation, send you to Steve Hall. But remember, your chances are running low. Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Collier, you have 2 votes to, in lieu of revocation, to send you to the Steve Hall program. You've got to complete that program. If you don't complete that program, look, you're done. You understand that?
Yes, yes, sir. Do I
Whether you want to admit it or not, you've got a substance abuse problem. Steve Hall also will assist you with your mental health issues. So there are 2 things that you can get out of that program. So I encourage you to really pay attention. And if you complete that program successfully, you'll be put back out on parole. You'll be back with your family. That program is about 9 months, but you got to work to do it. You can probably finish it sooner if you work hard, but that's up to you.
I don't get credit for some time served. I've been in here 60 days.
Credit for all of that time you've been in there.
You'll get your credit. The Department of Corrections will give you credit for whatever time you deserve. That's not for me to figure. Good luck to you, sir.
All right.
Man, I don't know why they were so kind to him. He was totally unappreciative of what they just gave to him. I don't really. I'm confused. Some people they just throw the book at, and some people they're just kind to. And he seemed to be totally unappreciative of what they just gave him. I don't know what his full sentence was, how much time he was going to have to serve. Also surprised me Miss Wise said no. Usually she's the most gracious. There were so many one-liners. I thought it was okay because they sold it in stores. You're on parole. You don't get to choose the rules. Go ahead, dig your own grave. When he said, "I'll be honest," Miss Wise is like, "Yes, be honest." And then they go and they give him a golden platter, and he's just no appreciation at all. I don't feel bad for him. No, I don't. I mean, that unbelievable. I feel like other people we've seen who just gotten completely denied were more deserving, but that's just me. I'll let you go.